Pastor Samuel. Father, you're so sweet. You're sweet on the altar, and you're also sweet in doings. Hey, true man of God. Hello, Pastor Samuel. You're sweeter than my husband. Pastor Samuel. Once upon a time, in a village called Ayetoro, there lived a man of God called Pastor Samuel. He was a well-respected man of God. His deep faith, kind heart, and dedication to his congregation had earned him the respect and admiration of the entire community. For years, he had been a beacon of light, guiding his parishioners through trials and tribulations with his words of wisdom and comfort. Pastor Samuel has resolved family disputes between husbands and wives through prayer and counseling. He was loved by villagers, men, women, and children. One day, Pastor Samuel made his way through the quiet streets of Ayetoro, his heart heavy with the burden of the day's counseling section and prayer meetings. As he approached his home at the edge of the town, he couldn't shake off the feeling of tiredness and stress that had been over him all day. Opening the door, he was greeted by his children and the sweet scent of the food his wife was cooking. Sarah, his wife, looked up from the stove with a smile, her eyes full of love and understanding. Pastor Samuel, my love, you look troubled. Is everything all right? She asked in a concerned voice. It's nothing, Sarah. Just the weight of the villagers and the parishioners on my shoulders, as usual. Pastor Samuel replied, forcing a smile as he crossed the room to embrace his wife. But deep down, he knew it was more than the weight of his responsibilities as a pastor that troubled him. Lately, he had been feeling a restlessness within him, longing for something more than the life he had built for himself in Ayetoro village. It all started innocently enough. A chance encounter with a troubled parishioner seeking counsel in his words. Maria, a beautiful young woman with a charming eyes and a troubled marriage, had come to him seeking guidance and comfort. Pastor Samuel, sitting in the church office reading his Bible, saw Maria approaching. He welcomed her. As she was about narrating her story, she felt emotional and started crying. Pastor Samuel stood up, moved closely to console her. He felt a connection unlike anything he had ever experienced before. In his arms, Maria narrates how she had caught her husband with several women in the village. After she confronts him, he beats her and tells her to mind her business. She also narrated how her husband has not been able to perform his duties as a husband to his wife. She has been starved of romantic and sexual connection with her husband. She is thinking of packing her bags and leaving, but her 2 children are the only reason keeping her in the marriage. Pastor Samuel consoled her and asked her to come the next day with her husband. Getting home, Maria told her husband as Pastor Samuel would like to see both of them in the church office tomorrow. Hearing that, he descended on her, beat her up, and told her to pack her bags and leave his house. She ran out, late hour in the night, to meet Pastor Samuel in the church office. Pastor Samuel followed her home to plead with her husband, but wasn't successful, and the husband insisted she must leave. Pastor Samuel took Maria to a building in the church for her to sleep, because it was already late in the night and very dangerous. Thereafter, he left the church premises to his house. Next day, Pastor Samuel went back to the church to check on her and ask if she can go with him to the husband's house to resolve the misunderstanding, but she refused. In the days that followed, their meetings in the church office became more frequent, their conversations more intimate. What had started as a simple act of counsel had blossomed into something forbidden and dangerous. Despite his vows and his commitments to God, Pastor Samuel found himself drawn to Maria in a way he couldn't explain. Their encounters in the church office became frequent. Pastor Samuel began to spend more time in the church just because of Maria. His wife noticed, wanted to confront him, but she said to herself never to stop the husband from doing the great work of God and the reputation he has built. Days passed. Pastor Samuel began to get back home late in the night. Most times, he doesn't eat the food his wife prepared for him. Sarah could not take it anymore and decided to confront him. Pastor Samuel, why are you always returning home late in the night recently? You don't get to eat the food I prepare for you as well. What is wrong? She asked. Tell me, I am your wife. Pastor Samuel, knowing his wife would not want him to quit the work of God, told his wife he is getting tired of God's work and wants to quit because it's not making him to have time for his family. But Sarah encouraged him not to and begged for his forgiveness. Pastor Samuel and Maria continued their counseling in the church office, leading them to sleep with each other. Their desires overpowered their reason, and they gave in to the forbidden passion that burned down between them. Each stoning moment only served to deepen the guilt and brings shame to Pastor Samuel's soul. Meanwhile, rumors began to spread through the village of Ayutoro over Maria frequently going to the church office for counseling, and whisper of a scandalous affair involving their beloved pastor. Sarah, obvious to her husband's transgression, defended him fiercely against the accusation that threatens to tarnish his image and reputation. One fateful evening, Pastor Samuel and Maria found themselves entwined in each other's arms in the church office. A parishioner seeking counsel and guidance as she approached the church office door, she heard the strange sound of a passion coming from a woman inside the church office. Pastor Samuel. Father, you're so sweet. You're sweet on the altar, and you're also sweet in doings. Hey, true man of God. Hello, Pastor Samuel. You're sweeter than my husband. Pastor Samuel. The door swung open, revealing a shocked and horrified onlooker who stood frozen in the doorway. Her eyes wide with disbelief, without a word, she turned back and fled into the night. Her cries of betrayal echoed through the darkness. The next morning, the villagers of Ayutoro received a scandalous news that their beloved pastor had fallen from grace. The once respected man of God who guided them through life's trials and tribulations was now swimming in sin with another man's wife, his reputation tarnished beyond repair. The villagers gathered outside the pastor's home, their eyes filled with anger and disappointment, as they demanded answers. Pastor Samuel stood before them, his head bowed in shame as he confessed to his sins and begged for forgiveness. But forgiveness was not to be found in the hearts of the villagers, and the husband of the woman he slept with, whose faith had been shattered by the revelation of their pastor's betrayal. In a fit of righteous anger, they turned on Pastor Samuel, their fists raised in judgment and condemnation. His wife, Sarah, begins to cry, beg for mercy and forgiveness for her husband, but the villagers couldn't listen to her. Bruised and blood all over Pastor Samuel, he was dragged through the streets of Ayetoro village, his cries of repentance falling on deaf ears. In the end, he was cast out of the village he had called home, his once proud spirit broken and his faith shambles. As he walked away from the ruins of his former life, Pastor Samuel knew that he could never again be the man. The road ahead was long and uncertain, but he vowed to carry the weight of his sins with him as a reminder of the consequences of his sins. Sarah, his wife, with the bitterness and disgraceful act of her husband, in order to protect their children, she ended the union between them and never gave him the opportunity to see their children again. The moral lesson of Pastor Samuel's fall from grace echoed through the village of Ayetoro for years to come. The temptation and human nature, the once respected man of God had learned the hard way that even the most devoted of servants could fall for temptation. In his fall, he found redemption in the harsh light of the truth and humanity. Thank you for watching. Kindly share, like, and subscribe. Please, thank you.